I'm Dr. Dorothee Mertz-Weigel, and I teach French. And my course that was reviewed by QM was a French for Business course.
And I'm Dr. Kathleen Fabrikant, and I teach in the College of Education at several levels. And the course that I turned in for QM review was Research and Grant Writing in Adult Education.
I'm Dan Skidmore-Hess. I'm a professor of political science, and my course was Political Science 1200, Ethical Theories and Moral Issues in Government. Okay, our first question for my colleagues and I, what did you expect before your Quality Matters peer review?
I expected it to be something like a review for a journal article we were writing, where I would get a lot of feedback from peers and, forgetting that really it wasn't the content as much as the formatting that was important in this. So I guess my expectations were a little bit different than what actually happened.
Well, actually, I did not know what Quality Matters was, so I didn't expect much until I did a little research and read some emails that were going back and forth, and I found out that it was about the format of the course and that there were guidelines that needed to be respected to pass QM review. So. Right.
I was a little concerned that there would be so much focus on format that content wouldn't matter, and that there could even be a tendency not to be sensitive where if you really push format, it can start to affect content.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that happen, not just in online scenarios, but in teaching in general. And so I did have some concern there that because I have a fairly idiosyncratic way of teaching my course, which is I was already years away from textbooks in the way I was teaching the class. For example, everything was on web links because I teach from classics and they're in the public domain.
Right.
And I was pleasantly surprised then to realize that actually put me up to date. It wasn't the way I thought of myself, but that was actually a good practice. But I had some anxiety as to whether they would really understand what I was trying to do.
Sure. And if I can just add something, I was happy to find out that there was a subject area specialist on the team that would know actually what a real, a face-to-face business class was in French, for example.
Right. I completely agree. That was a good thing.
It was.
And helped put me at ease, because that was somebody who could speak my language.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
How did I feel before the course review? I guess I was a little bit nervous because even though we've had a lot of training at the university has provided for us that we've taken over the years, it's still a little nerve-wracking to know that suddenly everything's under review. Is every font right? Is every discussion board properly posted? And have you put the right things in it? So I was a little bit apprehensive, yes.
So was I, actually. I mean, we do peer reviews of our face-to-face classes, and mostly that's for teaching style, rapport with the students, behavior in the classroom, of course content as well. But I was extremely nervous, and I'm a perfectionist, and so it put even more pressure on me. I wanted to do well, but there were so many things to consider that I wasn't sure I was going to do well.
I was, the Quality Matters rubric was rather daunting in appearance, so that was a cause of nervousness. On the other hand, I would say the staff at the Office of Online and Blended Learning gave me confidence because we had spent so much time preparing to that rubric that I was relieved that we had gotten to that point.
I understand
because we had spent
exactly
a lot
what
of
you
time
mean.
on development.
Yes.
Sure. Can I just ask, how long did it take you to develop your course?
Bear in mind that I was transitioning into a new role as department chair at the time, so it took longer than it would have otherwise, but it was several months.
Yes, okay. It took me a year, so.
Wow, okay.
How did the review help you to better understand your online course? It helped me understand that it really needed to be extremely structured for the students, that every single detail needed really to be written out and prepared already, all the rubrics. In my course, I had a lot of assignments. It was very labor intensive, and to have a rubric for every single assignment was quite a task. And so the review itself, the comments, I guess that's what the question is asking, the comments I received helped me understand that, yes, I had done all of what I should have been doing, but that I could also think about different aspects of it, like different ways of assessing and things like that. So.
I agree. It did help me look at things a little bit differently. I realized the course had to be laid out very clearly because someone else was looking at it now. It wasn't just my students saying, oh, well, what about this? And I can correct it as I go along, as I had in the past. You tend to get a little bit, not lazy, but a little bit more laid back about how you teach online. And suddenly it all had to be done and had to be right when it got turned in. So I really, as you did, had to come up with rubrics for a course I've been teaching face-to-face for years and figure out how to make it crystal clear to my students online. Yeah.
That was true for me too. And the other piece that was a big focus for me was engaging the students. I was taking a course online that had existed for many years as a face-to-face class, and so I was used to being able to read faces and address students' concerns on the spot. And what I tried to do was take the lectures from the seated course and paste them up online. But I had to learn all the techniques and methods of how to engage virtually with discussion boards and other technologies that the staff here was very eager to introduce me to.
The course designer I worked with introduced me to something that I'd kind of used before, but not nearly as much, where there is a discussion board posting about general questions you can ask that would help the whole class, not just something just for them.
Yeah.
And that became very useful because lots of times if a student would post a question, it was one that most of the other students had wondered about also. So some of the little tips they gave us really helped a lot.
Like a forum type.
Yes, right, an
Absolutely.
open forum for the class.
Yes.
Did you develop your course differently knowing that it would be reviewed?
Yes, I think if you're not reviewed, you tend to overlook details.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
that's
so
right, yes.
this time, we could not, I could not overlook
no.
details, and I think none of us would have anyway. So yes, I looked at it very differently, in great detail.
I did, you're exactly right. I did too, because I went down that Quality Matters checklist, one thing at a time, thinking, oh my gosh, did I do this? And mostly I had, and in more than one places, but it made you double think, and it also made sure you didn't leave something out, because I have been guilty of posting an online course and leaving one or two things out, and remedying as I went along. But this made sure you had it done properly before it went in.
Right. I'll insert here that as a department chair, I really like this process, as a peer review process, as you mentioned earlier, Dr. Fabrikant, precisely because of that extra layer of quality assurance you have.
Well, that's true. I hadn't thought of that.
We have a framework for classroom peer review in place, which is very hard to replicate in the online environment. I think Quality Matters plays a very important role for us in that regard.
Sure.
I agree. To me, how did peer review change online teaching for us? I think it didn't change it as much as it made it much more polished, much more smoothly run, making sure there weren't any glitches in the technology, but also in the way the course was presented. If there were redundancies, they were caught early on. So the course went off very smoothly. I can't really say that I had any problems with it. I was already, the content area I'd been teaching it for years, so that was okay. It was just a matter of putting it online for students who had not been used to taking courses online. This was for a program that had been all face-to-face. So getting them comfortable with it was also an issue. So that's why the discussion for everybody and opening up the forums. And I did respond to most of their discussion posts. I would stick my 2 cents worth in here and there. especially the days that they were due, and I think that made them feel better too. So.
Well, for me, it was my first experience with online teaching ever. I had never taught online. I had never even taken myself a course online, except for the e-faculty training that we received here. So, I mean, it taught me everything, really, the whole process, and I worked a lot with Dean Ehrlichs and everything. It changed everything, because I didn't know. I had expectations probably, but having those guidelines to look at, having a frame to work with, it helped tremendously.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm eager to find out. I was scheduled to I finished the process late last summer. I was planning to teach it in the fall, and the dean's office had other ideas for me. So I have this brand new car sitting in the driveway that I haven't got to drive yet. And I'm eager to, because when I've taught online before, the student engagement issue I mentioned before has been a concern. And I'm eager to see how these new techniques and technologies that are embedded in my design now, how they're going to work in practice. I have a little anxiety about there because I worry about glitches, if we're trying to have a Skype interaction, for example, between more than two people, how's that going to work? But discussion boards, I'm familiar with that. I think those will work pretty well.
How do you think students will enjoy your courses more as a result of the peer review? Well, they took the course, so it was being reviewed as my students were taking the course. So I guess this would be for future students. I didn't have that much to change really after the course review. So it did, but going through that process though really helped me understand better how to really take care of everything the next time I do it. I hope it won't take a year to create the next course that I build.
Right.
And my students really enjoyed having the rubrics because after the first assignments that maybe they didn't do so well, I reminded them that they should look at the rubrics, that everything was explained there, and that if they wanted an A, they should look at what was needed to get an A. And many students are motivated by getting good grades. So
that's right.
Maybe
they don't always enjoy being required to continually stay engaged in the course, although I think in your subject that's especially important.
It is.
It's important in every subject, but
Yes.
I think it's especially so in language studies.
Sure.
I agree with the rubrics. Mine were the same way. They were used to verbal instructions from an instructor and asking for repetition and clarification. It was all right there. And they really, the course designer helped me to put them into the Dropbox where the assignments were deposited as well as in the content part.
Sure.
So they got to see them everywhere they looked. And for my target learners, that was a good thing because this was very new to them. And it made them feel comfortable. It was right there all the time.
Yes, it was
So,
very new to my students as well. I had never taught online before, and they had never taken courses online either. None of them, even in other subjects.
Right.
Wow. So it was really
It was
first
brand
time.
new.
I agree with what you both said. Students certainly appreciate clear instruction and expectation. That's important. I think the visual display is going to be a lot more enjoyable than what I used to have in my online class, including some embedded video, but as well as simply the layout and the ease of finding things.
That's true. I embedded PowerPoints for every single lesson, and then I also had video links they could use to base their discussions upon. They had 2 books also, but a lot of it was based on videos and things like that, which would have been tougher to do face-to-face.
Right.
It's so easy to put all those things on an online course, and I find myself using much more media in an online course than I do face-to-face because sometimes the technology in the classroom doesn't work, and when they're online, it works. It's great. Yeah.
Did you or your students experience fewer problems following the course peer review? Well, in my case, I'm waiting to find out, and I think the answer will be yes. I think it's the visual display makes things very easy to follow.
I think so too. I didn't get a whole lot of questions from students saying, what do I do next, or how do I do this? And in the case of the grant writing course that I taught, they did have to contact a nonprofit. It didn't have to be in this community because they might have lived elsewhere. But somewhere they had to write a real grant for a real entity. It wasn't just a textbook one they wrote. So it required outside work on their part. And I think that had the technology in the course not been so clear, they would have had a lot tougher time. But I worked with a course designer to make sure that every single segment had checklists and things, rubrics, so that they would know what that section was, because nobody did the same assignment. Everybody's was a little bit different.
Sure.
So that was the challenge.
Sure. The problems I have encountered when I was teaching the course was at the very beginning, when everybody was trying to understand the technology. But that really had nothing to do with the actual course. I mean, of course, it's an online course, so it's part of it, but it's what supplies the materials, I guess. So really, the course itself was very clear to the students. I had a forum. There were no general questions about, what did Dr. Mertz mean by this? I guess it was all very clear. They all did very well once the technology was acquired and learned.
And I think what the university's done for us is in the beginning, in every course, they have a part where there's training videos.
Absolutely.
And here's one stop for students. So here are all the places you can go. So when they started to email me questions about, I don't know what to do, I said, wait a minute, there's a link on the course homepage. All of that's here for you. There's a help desk phone number. Because they are the experts. They can fix anything that's not right for your computer. So that seemed to relieve a lot of anxiety too.
We still need to get our banner and our registration system
that would be so nice.
Synced up
Yes.
with the online course environment. I hear that's on the way. That would be
wonderful.
a big help, because I hear that problem coming to my office as department chair all the time. Students get a little confused.
And what he means is it's alphabetized by first name in one place and by last name in another place. And when you're entering grades and things,
Right. It's not just that. It's also the day you register for a class. Students assume that they're going to be registered online. And they're going to be able to go into the online classroom. There's a gap.
Okay, that's right,
Yeah,
there is.
yeah.
They have to do but that's a university issue, not a quality matters
no,
issue.
And then hopefully that, it's just a matter of the next technological step, and we'll be
there.
We'll
That
be
would be
there.
great. Did our courses pass review the first time? Yes, mine did. But I think it partly was because I had so much help from the Office of Blended and Online Learning.
Yes.
The director showed me the comments, coming up as it was under review, so I had a chance to go in and fix them all along the way.
Right.
And the course designer who worked with me was fabulous, and she really caught things before I realized this isn't going to translate correctly, or I've created a forum and not a topic and things like that within it. So with their help, yes, there was very little to change at the end. Without their help of this office, I think I'd probably still be working on it.
Me too. Same answer.
Yes.
It was definitely because I had help from this office that
Sure.
it passed the first time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes.
Did the review team find any problems with the design of your course? If so, how much work was involved in implementing those changes? For me, there was one of the, what is it called? The QM big theme, or I don't remember what they're called.
The standards?
The standards, thank you. So one of the standards was not met because it wasn't part of the old QM review. They had just changed it. And so I had to fix that, at the very end of the process so it could pass the first time. But it wasn't much work because I got help from this office. So it wasn't much work for me. It was really helpful in that way.
I agree. There wasn't much work left either by the time I got to that point. I think I got all but 2 points in the end, and I don't remember what they were, but I remember thinking they were subjective, and I was happy to be able to leave it the way it was.
I remember having to make it easier for the students to find the links to student services, which was a good, helpful
Yeah.
thing, but it wasn't any major structural,
Right.
had nothing to do with content. Content went very smoothly, and it, I realized it was a positive adjustment to make. It wasn't onerous, in large part because of the support we have.
I agree. I think that we all know our content area, or we wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Right.
But how we present it to the outside world through an online format is where we need the help, because we are obviously not the experts at that. Our Office of Online and Blended Learning is. And how they support so many of us doing so many courses is beyond me, but they're amazing, and I think that really has helped us improve our teaching. I do.
Definitely.
What advice would you give to other online educators whose courses will be peer-reviewed through the Quality Matters program?
Work with the Office of Blended.
Right.
Exactly. Develop a good working relationship
Yes.
with your course designer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do not worry that they're going to try to make you teach something you don't want to teach. They're going to help facilitate you teaching what you do want to teach, and be ready to work.
Yeah.
But I think it'll pay off in the end.
I agree. I think I created a much more polished course, and this is about the 4th online course I've created. Before that, we did do a version of Quality Matters because it was training that I think I went through the second group here of e-faculty training. So we were using an older version, but it wasn't peer reviewed. And I think this has really brought everybody up to speed, and I think all of us are the better for it.
Absolutely.
So-
I guess another advice maybe would be to study the rubric,
Yeah,
the QM
on your own,
rubric
yes.
on your own before you start, getting into building an online course, just to see what the expectations are, what you should be thinking about when you start building your course.
Practice what we teach.
Right?
Yes.